Hi, I'm Christine from The Internal Work, and I'm here to talk to you about feeling your emotions. So here at The Internal Work, we are all about emotions. We love them. And our goal here is to really dive deep into them, to examine, dissect, and interrogate them so that we can help give guidance to others into their internal world. We think it's important to dig into our emotions because we believe that what is holding most people back from doing the things they want to do, from pursuing their goals, from making the hard choices, comes down to not wanting to feel certain emotions. It all comes down to examining and feeling our feelings of self-worth, pride, pity, anger, frustration, insecurities, fear, or even love. And you might think it's more than just what we feel. It's our belief systems, it's our thoughts, it's society. But I'm here to tell you that those aspects of us are rooted into us by our emotions. Our emotions are the web that connects all these dimensions within us, and how we react to those emotions, whether we are okay with those emotions or if we feel discomfort with these emotions, will dictate how we perceive the world and what choices we make. So we believe one of the first steps to get into your internal world, or your world of emotions, your subconscious, your unconscious behaviors and patterns, is to feel. Here at The Internal Work, we view emotions as signals that let you know what's going on internally. And these signals give you insight. The ideal situation would be to give yourself the opportunity before reacting to acknowledge what you are feeling. And I think most of us know that it's important to examine what we feel, but it's very easy to get caught up into the story of what's happening externally first. And it's also very easy to shove away an emotion if we think it's wrong to feel. Ideally, you want to get to know an emotion intellectually, philosophically, symbolically, energetically, physically, so that you can recognize it every time you feel it. And this goes for every emotion, whatever it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, or in real terms, the anger, the sadness, the grief, the irritation, the guilt, the fear, the anxiety, and get to know every aspect of that emotion. And you may be thinking, well, I can't do that in the heat of the moment. Well, yes, you can. You can still be angry at your brother while simultaneously examining yourself. It takes a little bit of practice, but it absolutely can be done, even if you need to tell your brother to hold on 1 second while you feel. We've become so good at ignoring what we feel that we don't realize that there is a plethora of information to be examined and explored within us. Let's take another example, maybe the feeling of nervousness before doing a public speech. You take a moment to feel your body, and you may have the obvious signs of being a bit sweaty in your armpits, a little bit of shaking. Maybe you're moving your knee up and down and it's shaking the table next to you. Maybe you feel slightly nauseous. And if you get really in tune with what you feel, maybe the emotion is a kind of vibration that's reverberating through your entire body. Next, you can enter your mind and analyze your thought patterns. I'm so nervous. What if I stutter? What if my voice cracks? What if they don't like me? I wish I would have prepared more. Wonder if I need to puke. Am I that nauseous to puke? If I puke, I don't have to go through with this. And you'll see a whole story is starting to be created just by what we feel. You'll find pieces of your self-worth in this examination, pieces of your history, patterns, and reasons for why you are where you're at. Now, there are a lot of us that like to shrug off emotions, saying to ourselves and to others, I don't want to feel this. Emotions are irrational. Emotions make you weak. You're too sensitive. You won't get anywhere if you listen to your emotions. Don't let your emotions rule you. Don't be a slave to your emotions. And while these statements try to teach you to make wise choices no matter what you feel, this promotes the idea that what you feel doesn't actually matter. These statements do not take into consideration that there is a valid reason for why you feel the way you do. There are no coincidences on why you feel this way at this moment. Now, these reasons are mostly rooted in your early childhood. They are habit patterns created by a child long ago who experienced an emotion in an intense state, who had no grasp or training on how to feel what they were feeling or what to do about them. Then, guided by adults who had no idea how to maneuver certain emotions. However, whatever the reason, and there are an endless amount of experiences that could have occurred that are only relative to the individual, there is a valid reason. Whether or not influences outside of you think it's valid, it's more important for you to see it as a valid reason to feel what you're feeling so that you can take care of yourself, make choices, and try to change how you interact with yourself. Now, we believe emotions are advisors. That's it. Advisors, but to be clear, not the CEOs of us. But if you ignore and try to shove away what your emotions are trying to tell you, they are only going to get louder. And we know this. Emotions can be intense. Many of us have experienced panic attacks, anxiety attacks, intense fear, or even intense anger. And by the time you've experienced an emotion in this high state, you are unable to examine them until afterwards. But if we hadn't ignored them when they were more subtle, we could have done something. And this subtleness isn't the feeling right before it gets intense. It's the feelings we accumulate after days, weeks, or even years of ignoring ourselves. Now, there is a lot of judgment towards emotions considering they are just sensations that for the most part are uncontrolled and naturally arising within you. Because they are natural. These emotions are signals. They are the signals that let you know what's going on inside of you and how you're interpreting your world. These signals are a part of your human existence. It is our judgment of these signals that cause a lot of the discomfort. But if we took away our biases and looked at the sensation itself, it's easier to see that an innate part of you is trying to tell you that something is happening. You know, we don't feel the hunger signal and tell ourselves, I shouldn't feel hungry. Obviously, how else would we know we need to get nutrients inside of us for energy? We don't break our leg and feel the pain signal that's telling us not to stand on it anymore and think, I should definitely jump on this broken leg. You're not trying to hide or ignore the pain signal in that moment. And yet, somehow, emotions can be completely ignored. Getting comfortable with what you feel, actually acknowledging what you truly feel, and not being afraid to feel them gives you incredible insight on what's going on with you. Another aspect of judging emotions is defining some emotions as good and others bad. For example, I would say that most of us have deemed the sensation of anger as bad, or that it's bad to be angry. But the anger in and of itself that courses through your body is just a signal. Again, a signal that is naturally arising within you. Now, I'm not talking about the consequences of the anger, the reasoning for the anger, or whether you can tame or cool down your anger. But for right now, just focusing on the actual feeling or sensation of anger itself. Is that signal or sensation actually bad? The belief that there are emotions inside of you that are bad and not worth feeling causes a serious philosophical discourse within ourselves. Think about it. This is a sensation that has organically arisen inside of you, that you can't necessarily control, and somehow it's bad or wrong according to family or society, but since it is a part of you and it's bad, then you must be bad, right? People twist that the things we feel make us bad, and to consciously or unconsciously think that a part of you is bad doesn't serve you because it's you. As long as you are rejecting or separating yourself from your core self, it can never get resolved, improve, or get better. The best thing you can do is turn around and embrace it so that you can give yourself the opportunity to resolve it. Now, people do believe there are bad emotions, and they do try to get rid of these emotions. It's easy to see this all over the place. People abuse alcohol, drugs, watch hours upon hours of TV. They overeat, do excessive exercise, overwork themselves, take pills, just to escape what they feel. Don't tell me there haven't been moments in your life where this isn't true. Maybe you smoked a joint after work to escape the feeling that you had a crummy day with your boss. Maybe you're upset over a breakup and drink a bottle of wine to numb out the sadness. Maybe you felt the need to run off some of your stress. I mean, it's the whole reason for antidepressants, so you don't feel depressed. Now, obviously, if you aren't ready to face what you're feeling, then it's absolutely okay to ignore them until you're in a better place for yourself. There is absolutely no need to add the emotions of guilt or feel like you're not doing or being enough. This video is not at all about putting yourself in a position you aren't ready for, and it's perfectly okay to be right where you are. But if you are in a better place for yourself and you think you can, then I encourage you to feel. Because in that moment, a moment for yourself, and with no inner or outer expectation, what's the worst that can happen if you feel what you're feeling? Just allow yourself to take a moment to feel the bitterness, the nervousness, maybe the light feeling of joy, or even the anger. What's so wrong with acknowledging what we feel, no matter our thoughts on what we should or shouldn't feel, and just admit to it so we can examine why we may feel this way and examine if we can do something about it. So much of these uncomfortable feelings and emotions are rooted in our past, and we need to look at why we feel uncomfortable with this signal. So, why is it hard for us to be okay with what we feel? Because you can't get rid of what you feel. You can try to ignore it, shove it away, cover it up, or not look at it, but you can't get rid of what you feel. And ignoring your emotions puts you at risk at eventually getting overwhelmed by them. And then this puts you at a greater risk for delaying the choices you need to make. Our society in general has an overall dismissive attitude towards emotions. Whether it's because our parents felt uncomfortable with our emotions, or we're even in the midst of disciplining us, some of the things they say can get twisted when it's transmitted to us and make us question if we are innately wrong for feeling a certain way. Like you might have heard, "You shouldn't be mad. You're being ungrateful. Don't cry. You need to be stronger. Other children don't behave this way. Why can't you be more like your sister? I can't believe I raised a child to be this way." Now, I don't want to blame parents, teachers, coaches, or society. Blame really doesn't serve anyone, especially now that we are adults. Blame puts us in a victim state and does not aid us in taking responsibility for ourselves. As we are a product of our parents, they are a product of theirs, who are a product of their parents, generation after generation. And a better question that I see in this situation is, how can you know how to be okay with someone else's feelings if you aren't okay with your own? I'd argue it's almost impossible. If you haven't addressed it within yourself, if you haven't gotten comfortable with the emotion that you think is uncomfortable, if you are ignoring how you feel, how are you going to understand what another person is experiencing and why they feel the way they do? How are you going to truly be compassionate with them when you are ignoring that very emotion existing within yourself? Because that emotion does exist within you. The one thing that is common among all humans is that we can feel, and we can feel all the range of emotions. If someone is angry and you feel uncomfortable with their anger, then you need to ask yourself, not them, why you feel uncomfortable with your anger. We have a saying here that what happens on the inside happens on the outside. So if you find yourself uncomfortable with someone else's emotions, it's because you are uncomfortable with that emotion inside of you. Now, these external contradictions of other people or society telling us what we feel or shouldn't feel as children puts us in a position of not trusting what's going on inside of ourselves. We start to believe that something is innately wrong with us. And those cute little 3-year-olds we see running around might be very expressive with their emotions, but they are not inherently wrong or bad for feeling that way. But somewhere in the midst of disciplining our children or not understanding what we are feeling and then disciplining our children, the transmission gets twisted in the child's mind that they are innately bad. And this belief that we are inherently bad sticks with us for our entire lives, shaping how we interact with others and how we shape our future. I think we as a society need to figure out how to tell our children we disapprove of their actions while also teaching our children we don't think that they are innately bad. As adults, having a relationship with ourselves, we need to figure out how to trust ourselves. Tell ourselves that we are not bad for feeling a certain way and realize that what we feel are signals and advisors to our overall reality so that we can make better choices for ourselves. So feel. If you're mad at your parents, feel that anger. Forget justifying their behavior in your head for a moment and just recognize you're angry. If you're ashamed or embarrassed about a comment you made, then give yourself a moment to feel that shame and embarrassment. Don't just try to jump over it because you might get an inkling of how you feel about your self-worth. If you feel guilty for not helping someone, then feel that guilt. Get to know how every aspect of that emotion feels on you so that you can identify it sooner. And more importantly, identify how often you feel that way and how it's shaping your reality. I guarantee that you spiral into some of these emotions more often than you think, and that there are patterns and reasons as to why you circle in some of the same emotions over and over. For right now, do not get lost in the story that's attached to that emotion. We're going to worry about that story later. For now, practice feeling. I want you to get really comfortable with that feeling. Get comfortable with the discomfort. Ask yourself, why is this uncomfortable? Because remember, it is just a signal. You might even notice your discomfort or how you might be compelled to do or feel anything else. Learn that you do this. This is an opportunity for you to learn how you treat yourself and learn about your unconscious habit patterns. You'll eventually get to a point of feeling things when they are more subtle. And when this happens, it'll be easier to make choices for yourself sooner before you get overwhelmed by that particular emotion. Now, this takes practice for everyone because we have years of subconscious mechanisms, reactions, thought patterns, and emotions we need to learn how to maneuver. For right now, getting comfortable with what you feel can help cultivate a relationship with yourself, help you be honest with yourself, find behavioral patterns you didn't realize you were unconsciously doing, and get you closer to a path that makes you happy. Hope you get from everything I've said is that it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling and that you're not bad for feeling that way. So go and be okay with feeling. It might get a bit messy at first. Actually, I promise it will, but you're going to figure it out and your internal world will get a lot more clear.